Hi, I'm in the craft room today because I'm going to be repairing a broken pot. Just got this pot that came into the studio and had a little break on it. This little break is up on the rim. It's outside of the soil area. This will actually be beyond where the soil and water are normally touching it. So I'm going to try a DIY Kintsugi technique. Kintsugi is repairing broken pottery with gold. And I'm actually going to use basically some gilding powder, I think is what it's called. I'll try to give a little more information on that, but try to get this back into that shape. Let's have at it and see what it looks like. Alright, the stuff I'm going to be using is a quick setting epoxy. This one's a JB Weld Clear 5-minute set, and I think it's a 1-hour cure under normal household conditions. It's actually embossing powder, this stuff called Perfect Pearls in the back there. It's a sunflower sparkle gold color. I suppose you can use whatever color you like. I have a couple of mixing tools for mixing the powder with the epoxy in a quick manner. And then I have a paintbrush, which I'm going to use to paint onto the cracked portion of the pot. This epoxy is in 2 parts to start with, and then these 2 plungers mix this or dispense it at a 1-to-1 ratio, and you just have to mix it together and get it to where it's going in a relatively quick fashion. So that's what I'm going to do. I only need a little bit. So I'm going to squeeze this into the little cup here, and then I'm going to mix it up and then add the coloring. First thing I have to do is figure out how to open this thing. Okay. Alright, so right as soon as I opened it, it's starting to come out. So, yep. Don't need very much. Okay, let's get this closed up. Whew. Stuff smells. Alright. What I'm going to do is try to mix this together as evenly as I can so that it activates and has the strength that it needs to do its work. Now, epoxy, if you've worked with it, you need some good ventilation. So I'm in a fairly large room and I'm using a small amount of it. I decided to do it inside because I want it to be able to dry in a decent amount of time. Because outside it's mid-40s. And if it gets down to about 40 degrees, this takes a little bit longer to cure. And I want the cure to happen so I can put this back outside, because it will have some smell for a little while. I'm also doing this because the pot is a pot that I'm really excited about using, and it's still a good pot, even though it's broken. It's just that the feeling is that it's not as valuable with a break in it. So with this Kintsugi method, it's seen as actually being more valuable than the broken pot, and sometimes even more valuable than if it had no breaks. Alright, so that's enough of that. This is a fine dust sort of stuff, this embossing powder. It's kind of like that. I don't really know how much to put in here, so I'm just using the end of a toothpick to kind of chuck a bunch of this in there. Let's see how that looks like. And again, trying to work smoothly and fairly quickly if I can. Now I don't want to add too much of this, because the more powder that's in there, the ratio of powder to epoxy changes, and I would imagine that it would have possibly less holding power if there was too much powder in it. Now, I got a ton of this stuff. I'm not going to use it all, but just for the purposes of being able to mix it, this is what I got to do. Okay, let's get the brush ready to go, and I'm going to get this put on to the edge here. I'm going to try to spread it in a fairly thin line, because I don't want to ooze too much out of here, but I do want to have this on as much as possible. I want really good adhesion between these two parts. I guess it's okay if there's a little line that escapes from all this. You know, I'm putting it on thick enough where I think I'm only going to have to put it on the one surface, because I will have some oozage, if that's a word. I'll have some escape from this. Okay, I got the edge done. Now this piece is going to go on. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to hold onto there. And I'm going to have to try to clamp this for a good 5 minutes, I guess. Okay, that's looking pretty cool, and I got a little bit more time before this is completely unworkable. I'm going to paint into some of these cracks and crevices a little bit more of this gold. I just wanted to have kind of a random feel, and I don't want it to look like a super straight line. So basically, this paintbrush is going to be toast after I get done using it for this, because it's just going to be filled with epoxy. It's looking pretty cool on the one side. You can see in the picture there, it's definitely shiny like gold. I suppose you can do this just by painting directly on a perfectly good container if you wanted to. But for my purposes, I'm actually using it to repair this pot here that was broken and I still like. Yeah, so I didn't hold it shut and it kind of slipped a little bit, so I'm going to have to stay here and hold this for a while. Give it a good 5 minutes. And it'll have a slightly raised gold painted section on it. And I just really want to make sure that this stays held and is in really good contact while it sets. And then I'll just take it for granted that it's going to stay okay for the next hour. That's actually going to look pretty cool. I mean, I'm looking at that gold right now, and it's kind of neat looking. I also got another color of this. It's like a copper color, and I'm thinking if I get brave and confident in this process that I can do a copper and gold together, which might look like kind of a rose gold. I might have to figure out how to add a little pink to it to get a rose gold out of it. But I think I have some pots that could use that. Oh, dang it. Okay, my difficulty right now is getting a consistent clamp on this just with my finger. So I'm kind of messing around, looking around, talking and stuff. You know, I suppose if I had some sort of a gentle clamp device, that would probably be good for this. But I didn't plan ahead on that. That's my clamps that would work for that are actually outside right now, and I'm not near that. So yeah, it's kind of neat looking, this stuff. So I was thinking if I had these two colors together, I could potentially get, see if you can even see it, could potentially mix those two together and get a slightly different gold color. I'm thinking if I'm going for a rose gold though, that I'll need to add a little bit of pink to it to get that rose color. So I don't know how long it's been. I haven't really set a timer, But as I kind of push this against the pot, I don't see as much oozing out as I did, so I think this is holding pretty good. Yeah, it's doing okay. I'm going to see if I have any more working time on this epoxy. Oh, it's hardening up pretty quick. Yeah. So now what I'll let this do is just kind of cure for a good hour or so. And then I'll have another look at it and see how it's done. So here is the repair cured the next day. I let it sleep overnight and harden fully, which is what the manufacturer recommended. So now the epoxy is pretty much hard on there. Last night when I tested it, if I was trying to push in a fingernail on it, it actually did leave a mark on there. And now it looks pretty hard, so that's pretty good. One other thing I noticed while it was curing last night is that while it was still soft, it kind of dulled the resonance when you ring. So when I went like that, it didn't make the ting of a bell. It actually had some dampening material, basically in the form of that epoxy on there. The soft epoxy made it just sound a little different. So that was one key to me of the level that it had cured at that point. So here's a question: would I do this again? And what would I change? I would absolutely do this again. Something I would change is actually probably add a slight bit more of the gold powder, maybe even try a gold leaf, or if I feel really confident in it, maybe step up to, say, a legit gold powder. Just, you know, find a pot that I think is worth it and upgrade to that expensive real gold dust stuff, just so I can say it's got real gold. To be honest, this is a decent look. It's not something that I would normally have on a pot up to this point, but now that I've used it, I think I would use it quite a bit more. And I have another pot that I broke a while back intentionally, and it didn't break the way I expected. So I think what I can do with that one is try this technique out and test it a little bit more. Maybe even do a different color on that one, because I wouldn't mind if it didn't turn out right. So I think I'll do another video, a more legit video that has a good step-by-step and good visuals down the road, because I think this is a pretty easy technique to do, but a little scary, and I think some tips that I can give would really help out. Now, a little worried about durability. Well, this has been a day since I've done the technique, but let's test it. So I don't know what pound force that is, but I'm squeezing the edge pretty decently, and I don't expect I would put much more force than that in normal daily use of this pot. Now, I imagine that this will probably not break in the same position of the crack. I think it'll probably break if it does somewhere else, or if it's on this side, it'll just break differently because it's actually really strong where that bond is. So yeah, so this is a Brian Saldano pot. I just did a reboxing on this. Noticed that I needed to do a repair, and the repair is done. It's a fun process, doing it again. Thank you for watching.